Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the podcast, In the Black of My Mind. This is our first podcast, our maiden voyage, if you will. And so we're going to have some fun. We got a lot of great things planned for you. Our guest today wears many hats: husband, father, grandfather, surrogate father, uncle, cousin, pastor, friend, businessman, motivational speaker. He's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha and so much more. He's truly a Renaissance man who's been involved in theater and dance and music and sports and the like. He currently resides in Apple Valley, California, and we'll talk with his lovely wife, and we'll talk more about that in a few. And for those of you that don't know or are geographically challenged like myself, Apple Valley is about 90 miles from Los Angeles. Now, full disclosure, our guest is family. He's my cousin, my mentor, my big brother, a confidant, my role model. He is the life of parties he has never attended. If he were to pat you on the back, you would list it on your resume. He once had an awkward moment just to see how it feels. Mosquitoes refused to bite him purely out of respect. When in Rome, they do as he does. He once got a standing ovation from the juror's box. If opportunity knocks and he's not home, opportunity waits for him. He is truly the most interesting man in the world. He doesn't always drink beer, but when he does, stay thirsty, my friends. My cousin Teddy Paul Collins Sr. How you feeling, cuz?
I'm, they're always talking about people that give them intros, when we see them, how they hype them up coming in. And I forgot who you were talking about.
Man, please. You are held in the highest of esteem. Trust.
Brian.
Before we go any further, man, how's the weather out there?
Actually, raining, and rain in the desert is rare.
Yeah.
In the high desert is rarer. And it's actually rained all day. Doesn't do that here at all.
Wow.
And so flooding, a lot of flooding. The ground's not ready for watering, had water in a long time. So it's just hard, and it flash floods. And so it really is kind of dangerous out there, especially if you don't know the area where the low spots are and stuff like that. So,
right.
Yeah, but we're hanging in there. I'm in the high ground. I'm about 2,400 feet above sea level. So
how many?
I'm up at 2,400 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the air a little bit.
What made you go to Apple Valley?
The Lord. We got an invite from some people that we knew that became our senior pastors. They met us in Oklahoma at Rhema during a conference. And I was ushering in a section, and I remember that I wasn't feeling good about myself that day because I had normally ushered down near the front row. And I was up in the balcony in the nosebleeds, and I was in my pride. But this couple came, and I said, come sit in the anointed section. Long story short, about 4 years later, they brought us out as associate pastors from Potomac, Maryland to Apple Valley, California. And the funny part is, we Googled Apple Valley, but back then in 1998, Google wasn't what it was.
Right.
But we Googled it and looked it up, and it had these water parks and these plush trees. And I was like, Apple Valley, great place to go. When we got out there, we found out we were looking at Apple Valley, Minnesota, not Apple Valley, California.
Right.
So, yeah, that's how we got there. So, yeah, long story.
Oh, okay. Hey, man, we got time, trust. I know I said this to you before on more than one occasion, but it bears repeating that your life is a book, man. A book, a movie, and a TV series all wrapped in one.
There's been some ups and
Yeah,
downs.
I know that's right. So for those that don't know you, let's start at the beginning.
Hmm.
You were born in,
Opelika, Florida.
is that right?
Born in Opelika, Florida, the little ghetto of Miami,
Mm-hmm.
off in the southwest corner, about a tenth of them, about a mile in each direction.
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I never knew that. I always thought
yeah,
you were born in Stanford.
no, Opelika, California. I mean, Opelika, Florida,
And
right
then
off Miami.
and then how old were you when you came to Stanford?
I believe, from my recollection, I know I was at least um, a year and probably a year and a half when I
Okay.
came to Connecticut from Florida. My mother had gotten injured at the hospital during my delivery, so we
Mm-hmm.
had to go back down there. And so it was somewhere. Our second trip down was somewhere around almost 2 years of age.
Okay.
And so yeah, somewhere in that frame. So I really grew up in Connecticut
Right,
all
right.
my life, from 3 years old on. So.
Right, right. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. You were very young when you lost your parents. Can you expound on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, I think I was about 2.5 years old, maybe, and it was in October of 1957, and my mother and father were breaking up, and my mother was actually married at the time to another gentleman, and they were reconciling their marriage. They had never gotten divorced, and they were in the process of reconciling their marriage. And my father was a very jealous man, and he had threatened my mother, that if she went away that weekend, he was going to do something to her when she got back. She came back on Monday, I think, October 22nd or 21st. And he went to the church where my grandmother was at choir rehearsal and asked where she was, and then went over to Greenwood Hill, 21 Greenwood Hill, and he proceeded to uh, almost empty his gun in her, and
Mm.
then supposedly pointed the gun at me and pulled the trigger, and the gun didn't go off. And
Wow.
then he fled. That was in 1957, and he never got caught.
Mm.
Yeah, never got caught. So yeah, it was.
Wow.
And surprisingly, I remember the confusion. I can't say I remember how many shots. I can't remember all of that vividly, but I do remember it went on. I do know it was noisy and people were screaming. I
Mm.
remember that. And then I do remember him. I thought he always pointed the gun at me. And one of my aunts who was there, a witness, she said, no, we were begging, Jimmy, don't kill the baby. And he pulled the trigger, but the gun didn't go off.
Mm.
And she told me that before she passed after I came back from boarding school.
Wow.
So, yeah. But yep, that's like the most vivid memory, as a child, I think.
Right, right.
Youngest point of memory.
So you definitely had to have been scarred as a result.
Um, I must have been, and it showed up probably in my behavior
Mm.
at school, and always being in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that consciously.
Right, right.
I didn't know that consciously. I knew once I got older and understood, what he really did. Then I got angry,
Mm.
at him for quite some time during my teen years,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting vengeance,
Wow.
and so that consumed me more in my later teenage years than it did as a younger child.
Okay.
I
So
think I kind of must have blocked it out. Plus, my grandparents raised me.
right,
They were always there. They became mommy and daddy.
right, right,
So, and it wasn't talked about a lot. So it wasn't nothing that, was always brought up. So
right.
I think I kind of just compartmentalized it for a while or
Mm.
something. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I didn't know until I was a grown man by the time I had heard of what was going on. What
Oh,
had
really?
happened.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but God.
Yeah. We were all known for keeping secrets back
Yeah, yeah. To this day,
then. Our family was secrets.
to this day,
To
you
this
know,
day.
I got a chance to spend 8 days with my dad. The
Mm-hmm.
last 8 days that was the last time I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And Ma was sick and she was in the hospital, and Pops wasn't doing that well, and so I cooked for him and cleaned, and he was in a wheelchair, and I was taking him around to see my mom's in the hospital, and at night we would hang out and eat and watch basketball, and we'd talk, and so he shared some things with me then that we should have had them conversations 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
40 years ago, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, as you said, we good at keeping secrets and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We
so,
mastered that.
oh yeah, oh
We
yeah.
didn't master everything else, but we mastered keeping secrets.
So you went to school in Stanford. Did you go to Stevens?
Yes, I went to Stevens from kindergarten to sixth grade.
Uh huh.
In our sixth grade year, they brought Clunan over there, seventh grade, for 1 year, I think,
Oh, okay.
because Clunan wasn't open.
Oh, the
And
new
then
Clunan,
when
that's
I
right.
left Stevens, I went straight to Clunan for seventh and
It's
eighth
junior
grade.
high, yeah.
Seventh and eighth. And then in ninth grade, I went to New Canaan Country Day.
Okay.
I went there for a year after going to their summer program for all those years.
Right, right.
Uh-huh.
So you were somewhat prepared then. I was going to ask you, were you culture shocked when you went there?
I was when I got to the school.
Mm-hmm.
The summer program was different because, everybody was bussed in from Norwalk and Stanford, and it
Right,
was
right,
brown people and black people. So
right,
pretty much there were very few whites in the summer enrichment program. That
right.
wasn't the design of it, but they wanted to then take one of their students out of the summer enrichment program and start offering them scholarships to go to New Canaan Country Day.
Okay.
And so back then, during that time, it was 1969. Martin Luther King had just gotten killed in 68.
Oh, right.
So it was also behooving to private institutions at that time. That's when the ABC program became big,
Oh,
that
right.
got students into boarding schools. Because there was also some tax incentives now for private schools for taking on minority students as well.
Oh, wow.
So all of that came about, and I was the first student out the enrichment program to go to school at New Canaan Country Day.
Mm-hmm.
And it had good intentions,
Mm-hmm.
but they were bringing me in for the ninth grade year only. And so I missed seventh and eighth grade in their school.
Mm-hmm.
And so my ninth grade preparation from Clunan wasn't ready for where they had me expected to be at ninth grade in New Canaan Country Day. So
Okay.
it was really like starting from, they had good intentions. They just didn't know what to expect.
Got it.
And it wasn't the capacity of learning. It was just being prepared for seventh grade, but being in ninth grade.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, that was a great experience, though. Yeah.
Mm. And then you left there and went to the Berkshire
Berkshire, up in Sheffield, Massachusetts.
Mm.
Got a scholarship there for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That was a life-changing experience.
You say life-changing. How so?
Well, ironically, going to New Canaan Country Day, it was a good idea. I happened to be, the only full African-American student in the whole upper school, 7th,
wow.
8th, and ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was the only African-American student. And that, even though I had been in predominantly white-dominated classes, even in Clunan,
Mm-hmm.
this was the whole school.
Right.
So, and the whole school went from kindergarten up to ninth grade. I'm just
Okay.
talking about the whole ninth grade. There were no other, African American students there.
Mm.
So it was interesting there. Berkshire was almost a step up. I got to Berkshire, and there were seven of us when I got there in the whole school. So that was a big step up from the Canaan country.
700%.
That's right. But it was, like I said, life-changing experience both places.
Mm-hmm.
It I got good foundational tools. I was really benefited on how to learn. So anything I wanted to learn, I had the ability to learn.
Okay.
I had the wherewithal. I had the tools, how to study, how to research, how to put a paper together. So no matter what I wanted to do, that's why they were called preparatory schools.
Gotcha.
They prepared you for wherever you wanted to go. You had the tools to learn whatever you wanted to learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's, so it was really eye-opening. I look back on it now, and I wish I had appreciated it more then. But I still got a whole lot out of the 4-year experience there. And plus, I got one of the best educations money could buy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sure. So, yeah. So it was great exposure. The speech that they gave Smokey and I when we got there was our headmaster at the time was a great gentleman too. It was his first year as headmaster.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted to see us be successful. He really did. And he told us that if we allowed them to groom us for the next 4 years, we could write our ticket to anywhere in the world we wanted to go.
Wow.
Any college, anything. And that's what he sold,
Right,
he said,
right.
You come and let us groom you. And so, when I left, me and Smokey left, we were heading back to the room. I said, groom us? What does he mean by that? I said, you groom a dog, don't you? I didn't,
Right.
my neophyte mind back at that time, I didn't understand what he was actually saying, but I understand the grooming. I was really prepared when I left Berkshire to go anywhere and do anything I had the ability or the want to do.
Wow. And so you spent 4 years up there,
Mm-hmm.
and then something happened at the end of your senior year.
Correct. One thing about going to boarding school, different than New Canaan Country Day, the day school, was that boarding schools were built on a hierarchy system. If you came in as a freshman, you were the low man on the totem pole. Mm-hmm. And if you were a senior, you got plenty perks. Mm. And so by the time I was a senior there, we were running things. Seniors ran things. Right. You had a whole lot of privilege that you didn't have as a freshman, sophomore, or junior. And we took advantage of all those. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we got into a lot of mischief. I mean, all these students, uninhibited, a mountain to roam. We roamed the Appalachian Mountains there like we lived there. We walked through the woods at night, no flashlight.
Oh, wow. Snow.
We knew our way through. I mean, we lived there 4 years. So, it was a very interesting time. So by senior year, as my grandmother said, we were smelling ourselves.
Right.
And so we got into a situation, and truthfully speaking, what they said they expelled us for really had no merit to anything that we had done. We didn't get caught doing anything, but yeah, we got expelled I got expelled in March. Graduation was in May. So about 60 days before graduation, after going there 4 years. So wow. I never got a diploma from there. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because I thought I had my college career and all those things planned out, and all that changed in one afternoon. Wow. And so, yeah, obviously the Lord knew there was another plan.
Right.
Yeah, not the one that I was on. So I really felt bad for my grandparents. That
Right,
was the
right.
thing that kind of really, I think, was a hard pill to swallow after that. That
Oh,
one,
I'm sure. I'm
yeah,
sure.
that one was hard. Coming back home was not something I intended to do.
Right, right.
But um, my wife, as you know her now, I was coming back home, and she came and got me.
Oh,
And
wow.
if she hadn't came and got me, I wasn't planning on coming back home.
Right, right.
So yeah, so she had a lot to do with that.
So taking it back a little bit, growing up in Stanford, you had the opportunity to be involved in a lot of different things. Like I remember you played piano.
Mm-hmm.
Do you play anymore?
No, I have two songs I play, and I don't play them all the way through, but it takes me back nostalgia to something I used to do. And so I just have two little songs I play, so I don't play. I love the piano though.
Mm-hmm.
I love music. I was grandma tried to keep me busy, so I took drum lessons
Mm-hmm.
at the Stanford Music Store. Stanford, I forgot what it was called. Stanford Music something.
Up
And
Richmond Hill.
yeah, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
They had moved over to there, but yeah, that was
Oh,
the
okay.
final spot. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
took it there too. So I took drum lessons, piano, and just playing all the concertos and all the Bach and Beethoven just ran me away from the piano at the time because at sixth grade at Stevens School we had a little band,
Mm-hmm.
and we were playing on Friday last period. Our teacher would let us have a band, and we
Mm-hmm.
would play in there, and so we was trying to play um, Expressway to Your Heart and
All
stuff
right.
like that. And they got me trying to do Mozart and Bach, and I
Right,
just
right.
couldn't take the piano no more. So then I got into the flute, as you know.
Right, right.
And then you came along and mastered the flute.
Well,
So and
I
kudos
don't know
and
about
shout out
master,
to
but
you. Yes, you are.
uh,
Yep, you're a
I'm a jack
master.
of all
Yeah.
trades.
Now you're a flutist. Is that what they call you?
Yeah, well, that's acceptable now. Years ago, when I would say flutist, they would look at me funny. It's flautist, but you know,
Flautist. I know. That's
yeah,
okay.
but no, flutist is acceptable now.
Flutist
So
acceptable. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. And then I remember going to a recital and that you tapped at.
Yes. Yep. I tap danced at the Stanford School of Dance back then. And, we actually had some really talented people back there.
Mm,
There was a girl named Jackie Chitsey,
mm.
and she used to tap ballet tap.
Oh wow,
She had taps on the end of her ballet shoes
really?
and tap on the top. Yeah, she was nice. She went on, I think, to play with, be in the dance group of Dean Martin, the
Oh
Dean
wow,
Martin show.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
she went on to do that. And
Wow.
we had another person there that was a really good tapper at the time that I think went on. I just can't remember his name at the time, but it was really good. Good training and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, discipline. So yeah, it kept me active, theatrical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I still want to take lessons, man. There's a choreographer in Stanford that has a dance school now, and I went up to him. I said, man, if you can put together a tap a class for old cool brothers, I'm down. But I can't be in there with a bunch of 7-year-olds.
Not yeah, okay,
That
yeah.
ain't gonna work for me.
You can heel toe, heel toe.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then you were also in the Young Marines.
Yes, I love the Young Marines.
Now, what was that all about?
They were retired lieutenants and master sergeants out of the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
There was Lieutenant Battinelli. He was actually his brother was our commander, and one of his other brothers was the head of the different platoons. And they just taught us everything about the Marines. We had the color guard, we had the flag, and we did it all. I played piccolo
Mm.
in the drum and bugle corps. I played the drums, snare drum and that and stuff. And they taught us how to take orders, taught us how to press our uniforms just like we were in the military, the creases. We had to come cleaned and pressed, and we had the spit shine shoes, and just played taps. I played the bugle, played taps for if someone stepped on an ant, we would have to have a burial and taps and the whole thing.
Right.
So it was good discipline, and we marched in parades, and they took us to dude ranches and things like that. We went to Pennsylvania and upstate New York for dude ranches and stuff like that. And it was really a great program. Yeah, great program. I loved it. Still do. I still love them Marines, Semper Fi.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because I'm all these things I'm rattling off. I watched you, and then I was like, man, I want to do all of them things, man. I never got into Young Marines, but then I ended up going in the Army. So I guess
Yes, you did.
I got it one way or the other.
Everything I did, you mastered.
No,
I was a
novice.
You went on to master it. We got the flute. We got the military. I don't know what's next.
Man, I went to plays that you were in.
Oh yeah. Yes.
I remember. It was a great production. Finian's Rainbow?
Finian's Rainbow.
Yeah, that was a great production, man.
That was a good show. We had a lot of good actors and singers in that. Yeah. Yep. One of the girls, why am I losing her name now? But she's still acting, and she came out of that. What's her? I can't call her name. Anyway, it'll come back to me. But she was in those plays and Stage Door for Youth. Greatest program ever. We had a full orchestra, the Catalonados and stuff. Wow. I mean, we were being trained by professionals, and we had voice leaders and makeup and artists, and I mean it was a full production. We would sell out. We did Oliver, we did the West Side Story, Finian's Rainbow. I mean, it was just a great time for the youth back in Stanford. I love Stanford and what they did for the youth programs.
Unfortunately, all of these programs that we're talking about no longer exist in Stanford. Or for that matter, in a lot of different places. I don't know that there are very many of them. And I'm in West Haven. I know there's none here in West Haven. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. And it was Dana Delaney.
Okay. Yeah, man. So I remember some of the plays that got me started doing plays and things of that nature. I did. In fact, you were in a play called The Backstabbers.
Yeah, with Sheldon Hampton.
Right. And I ended up doing it the next year with Sheldon.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. But I had done a few other things with Sheldon and Drexel. And their whole family was, into theater and stuff. We did, was that? It's 76 trombones in the big play.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh, that's gonna bother me now.
I know you.
I sang in a barbershop.
I could see him.
I'm sorry.
The Music Man.
The Music Man. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good production, and we had an orchestra with them. Gary Wofsy was the director of the orchestra, and Gary was an interesting guy. He's you might have seen pictures of him. He's a guy that played two trumpets at the same time, so he played them like this.
Oh yes,
yeah, really good player.
Yeah.
So and an even better friend over the years.
Yeah, Crystal Perry. I was affiliated with the Crystal Perry and the Perry Players too.
Right.
And they did a good job. So we had a lot going on.
Yeah. Crystal did some really good plays. Really good plays.
Yeah.
When I went off to college, I became a crescent player. It was in a bunch of plays when I was in undergraduate school. I remember doing Pinocchio.
Oh yeah.
But being toe up and doing Pinocchio for a bunch of kids and stuff was, during that period of time, in the early '70s and stuff was there was a lot of drugs and stuff around,
sure.
And and all of us got involved in in all kinds of stuff for that matter. Not any one particular thing.
Correct.
When did you first start it?
It's amazing being around all of my friends and boys. I didn't smoke back then at all. I didn't, so they were always trying to get me to smoke weed, and I never smoked. It just wasn't in me to do. I didn't smoke cigarettes. I didn't smoke
Mm-hmm.
weed. And the strangest thing, I went back to school for early football, and a guy I know on the football team, uh, him and I were there, and we were up in one of the cabins that night. And he didn't smoke, and I didn't smoke, and we were probably about maybe like only 4 kids on the team that didn't smoke.
Oh, wow.
And this was junior year,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in this cabin, and we were drinking and stuff in the cabin and stuff, hanging out, and they passed the pipe, and he said, "I'm going to try it," and he passed it to me, and I said, "Well, if you are, I am," and there was really nothing to it
Right.
until the second hit,
Mm.
and then the story took on a life of its own. The story became alive, And I always had a saying back then to them. I said, you guys know me, that if I do something, I do it 100%.
Right.
So if I start, I don't stop.
Right.
So I always stayed away. And, you have to be careful. You have what you say.
Exactly.
And because I said that, seemed like I walked in that. Wasn't intentional, wasn't my desire. If I could do it again, I would have done things differently, but it would have changed everything. And so,
Right.
you can't change one part. But yeah, first time. So it must have been like 1973, something like that. Yeah. Whereas back in Stanford, all of our peeps was smoking weed back then.
Yeah.
And and when I came back home and they found out I was smoking, oh, I caught it. Yeah, I was a traitor, but yeah. So not like 1973.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That was an interesting time.
Oh, please, truly,
Mm.
on a whole bunch of different levels.
Yeah, I became a father that year, so got married that year, so it was an
73?
interesting year. 73, yeah. Yeah.
That must have been a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Fatherhood.
Oh, it was, because we got married, and about an hour and a half later, I left, and we couldn't tell anybody we were married.
Mm-hmm.
We eloped, and so that was my junior year. She graduated high school that spring, pregnant, and then in 74, that summer I went back to school that fall, and 74 came around, and then I got expelled, and so we didn't live together for like almost the first year, over a year and a half of our marriage, and couldn't even tell nobody that we were married. Actually, the only person that we knew at that time was Sharon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. She was right after we got married, we went and bought something from Caldor, and she was working at the register. So she was the first person to find out.
Wow.
Yeah, we caught it for that too. So you pay those prices for secrets. Back to secrets, right?
There we go. Yeah, I'm sure. Secrets. Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I thought it was the next year that you guys had gotten married.
I was married as a junior in high school.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what was fatherhood for you back then? Early on.
We were raised in the church, so I always loved Jesus as the character in the book. I didn't know him yet, but right. I always loved him. He was a guy who did good. He opened blind eyes. And, he healed the deaf. He made the lame walk. I loved him. And I just, in my spirit, did not want my daughter born illegitimately.
Gotcha.
I did not want that. And so we got married 15 days before she was born.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, 15 days. So that was, you know, and I'm glad. I'm
Oh, yeah.
glad
I
that
know
we
that's right.
we did it. As far as I'm concerned, we did it right. I'm
Mm.
glad we did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, when you came back uh, from Berkshire, where did you go? What was life like?
Ooh. That was the darkest time, I think, one of the very darkest times of my life. I was angry. I was educated. I um, I had experienced another lifestyle. I had been around money.
Mm.
I'd been around wealth. Um, so, you know, I had this chip on my shoulder. And
Mm.
then I got expelled, I thought, undeservingly.
Mm.
Uh, so I was bitter. I was salty. I didn't want to come back to Stanford.
Mm.
Um, I felt like I let my grandparents down and all of the family members that, you know, rooted for me, looking like I was going to make it and not to make it. You know, it's those life lessons are humbling um, when you're supposed to do something and you don't do it.
Mm.
You know, you
Mm-hmm.
fail. So that was a hard time. And plus, I was coming back as a father,
Right.
no job, no skills. My grandmother was insistent that I went back to school to at least get a diploma. So I enrolled at West Hill. I must have went to 8 classes in 6 months, and they were only African American class. I was in an African American class. That was the only class I showed up for, and I think
Okay.
I was only there 8 times.
Wow.
Only
Wow.
because the teacher, I think, knew my grandmother in some way, so
Uh-huh.
I felt obligated to at least give her some respect. Once a week, show up. You know?
Right. Right. Dang.
Yeah, so I came back bitter and salty, and got into the dark side. You know, I was angry. I was a militant. I
Mm.
went away to boarding school, Martin Luther King, and came out Malcolm X. You know, so
Right. Right. Right.
yeah, so it was a difference.
Wow. So where'd you go from there?
Um, we stayed in Stanford until 75, and the activities I got in um, were not all that were legal,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was some inspiration to leave, and if I didn't want to become part of the system.
Gotcha.
And so we relocated, Val, I, and Tammy, to South Carolina. We went down to
All right.
visit some of our family in Orangeburg, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt, God bless her soul, she was a professor at Orangeburg State.
Oh, wow.
And she insisted that they were giving a test at the Capitol that coming week. And she insisted that I go and take it to get my GED.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the best advice. I know God led us there so that she could get me that, or I would have never been able to go to UC Davis or anything else. So
Right.
yeah, so instrumental. From there, we wandered down to Lake Alfred, Florida, and then we wound up in Lakeland, Florida, and stayed there until I left there like late 75, Florida, and migrated to Colorado and then to California, Southern Cal.
Now,
So
what was
by
in
70,
Colorado?
huh?
What was in Colorado?
We had friends from Connecticut that were going
Oh.
to college at Denver University
Mm-hmm.
at DU. And so we went and visited them. Meet Kevin and Alita.
Okay.
We had a road trip from Florida, and then migrated out to Los Angeles
Mm.
and stayed with our cousin Peter there in the jungle. I was in the jungle
Mm.
back in '75. Oof, that was the life back then, back
Right,
there.
right.
Oh, the jungle was jumping. And
I'm sure.
and then we migrated up to Sacramento,
Mm.
where I found Davis and stayed in Davis for about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, went to school there, um, and then migrated back to Connecticut in '81.
Right. So
Yeah,
while you were at Davis, that's where you pledged Alpha.
correct. Pledged
Right.
Alpha Theta Eta chapter. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And pledged in '76.
Mm.
Actually, I started school in spring of '76 and pledged. I crossed June of '76.
Okay.
So got in the first quarter of school and started pledging Alpha,
Mm.
and graduate. I mean, pledged crossed 6/6/76.
I remember you were out in Davis, and then you came back to Connecticut,
Yeah, in '81. Uh-huh.
and you left Connecticut again. I guess for good that time, right?
Yeah, well, I think so. We stayed in Connecticut. It's the longest place we had been anywhere in quite some time. We were there for 14 years.
Okay.
We came in '81 and we left in '95.
Mm.
And we left to go to Rhema to go to ministry school.
Mm.
So that's why we left. Actually, we were doing very well. It was challenging coming back because I had classes that I was supposed to finish that summer, but my
Mm.
grandmother took ill. And so we had to come back immediately in June.
Mm.
And I didn't get to take my summer courses, so I never graduated
Mm.
Davis. So
Mm.
I didn't have a degree from boarding school. I didn't have a degree from college.
Wow.
And but grandma got to see me walk before she passed. I mean,
Oh.
before she got sick.
Mm.
And so we had to leave immediately and go back and take care of her in '81. And so she passed in '85, in '84.
Mm.
So she passed like 3 years after we got back.
Okay.
And we stayed there till '95, and then left and went to ministry school out in Oklahoma, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
Mm. Now, by that time, how many of your kids were born?
All of them.
Oh,
Then
wow.
by the time we left in '95, our last two children were born in '85 and '86.
Okay. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Right.
Number 5 and 6 were in '85 and '86.
Right.
Timmy and Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so they were all of age when we left. They were all at least 9 or 10.
Right.
The youngest when we left and went to Oklahoma. To pursue ministry. So that was another good move, interesting move. Every move was interesting,
I'm sure.
but that was an interesting one as well too.
How so?
Leaving Connecticut.
Mm.
I'd never been landlocked before.
Oh, right.
I lived in Connecticut on the East Coast. I lived in California on the West Coast. So there was always bodies of water.
Mm-hmm.
And being in Oklahoma is landlocked.
Right.
You are in the center of the United States and everything is fresh water and lake water.
Oh, right.
So
Right.
that was a big difference. We have the beach. We took Cummings, calf pasture, Ellis. We took all that for granted.
Yeah,
We
we
just
did.
always had it.
Right.
I never knew what it was to be landlocked and not have that. So to get out there and then find out what that was. So that was a big, big change.
Oh,
and
sure.
The plains, I've never seen weather change as fast in my life as in Oklahoma.
Really?
Oh, tornadoes. Listen, you could be in. We went into school in the morning and just had a sweater on. It was nice, getting ready to be sunny. Came out in the afternoon and it had to wipe snow off our car.
Wow.
That quick. I mean, so yeah, Oklahoma was interesting.
And then you went from Oklahoma.
From Oklahoma to California.
Mm-hmm. And that's what,
No, I take that back. We went from Oklahoma to Maryland, Potomac, Maryland. We were in Rhema for 2 years. We graduated in '97.
mm-hmm.
And then I itinerated for a year from '97 to '98, just traveling around the United States, preaching different places. Me, Valinda, and the three kids, Tanisha, Timmy, and Tyler. And we traveled all around preaching. And then in '98, we went to help pioneer a church in Maryland. And that's how we got to Potomac, Maryland.
Okay.
And we were there from 98 to 2000. And then right after Y2K came in, and then that November we were in Apple Valley, California, and we've been here ever since. So it's our 24th year. It's as long as we've been anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So 24 years out here now.
Is that your ideal place? Is that where you thought you would end up being?
Never.
Really?
But, I understand now why God did send us here. As a kid growing up, I love Westerns. I love Westerns. And what I loved about it was the scenery and stuff.
Oh, right.
Tumbleweeds, cactus. And that's exactly where we live.
Okay.
And it didn't come to me for being here like 10 years that the mountains and the cowboys and where I live was where Roy Rogers and Dale Evans lived. They lived here. They helped build Apple Valley to make it the name that it is.
Oh, wow.
So they used to have dude ranches here, and all of the movie stars and stuff would come up to the dude ranches here because Roy and Dale were here and ride horses and dry out and things of that such. And so this was a really thriving resort area, but it was Western. And so I love the West, I love horses. And, we'd be out here when we first moved here in this house, we'd be here and we'd hear this clump, clump out on the street, didn't know what it was. And Caballero, Mexican cowboy, coming down the street on his horse. Oh, wow. And if you'd walk outside your door, he'd turn the horse and it would prance. And he'd I'm like, I'm in the West. Tumbleweed rolling, blowing down the street.
Right.
Wow. So we're at home. So not looking to leave. We've been a lot of places. And I'm good right here. Yeah. Love it, actually.
Nice. Now, at what point did you start your church?
We actually were associate pastoring here in Apple Valley at a church that brought us out. We were here with them for 6 years, and we were invited to guest speak at a church in Moreno Valley. And I went and spoke. The pastors were away in Africa. And when they came back from Africa, they asked, could they meet with me in Valinda? And, we thought it was just to thank us for coming to minister and stuff. And they said that the Lord had called them to start a orphanage in Africa. And they didn't want to pastor any longer. And the Lord told them to ask us to take over the church. Wow. So I didn't put in an application nowhere. I wasn't, and that's what I try to tell people, that if you're really doing something for the Lord and you want to do something for the Lord and used of the Lord, just do what you do where you are. The Lord knows how to find you.
Oh, yeah. When
it's your time for promotion, he knows exactly where you are.
Right.
And he found us. We weren't looking for anything. And my mouth dropped open. That's the farthest thing. I thought we were going down to be asked to take over a church. And so that's how we got there. And I tell people that scripture says your gift will make room for you.
Right.
Your gift will make, some people want to start their own church, and maybe God is calling you to do that. But if you're faithful in somebody else's ministry, you've already earned your way for your own ministry. That's my encouragement to them. Right. But,
be faithful over
so that's how we got there. It's not something we applied for. It's not something we were looking for. Right. We were content where we were, serving where we were, and God opened the door for us. So we started that, and So we took over in 2005 for them. It stayed under the same name until 2007. And then in 2007, we changed the name to Renewed Life Fellowship.
Okay.
And that's when we got incorporated. And so we've been, as we go by RLF, we've been RLF since February 2nd, 2007. So it gives us 17 years of legitimate ministry. We're actually listed with the IRS. Because, you know, there's a lot of churches that aren't actually listed.
Right, you're legitimate.
I'm just joking. Had to throw that out there, but so God has been awesome too.
Amen.
Very humbling experience. I don't know what other people say, but it's always a humbling experience for me, even to this day, to have to get up and say what thus saith the Lord.
Right.
That just, I play all the time, and I've had my history.
Right.
It's been scarred and marred. But when it comes to the stuff with the Lord, I may play with people, but I don't play with Jesus.
I know that's right.
So I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and so I take that serious. And I'm actually if I'm proud of anything other than my family and what God has done in us, it's the ministry that he called me to, because I don't think there's anything else that I've given as much of myself to actually be successful in my life as it has been for ministry.
Right.
Not education, not jobs, none of that stuff. But I revere the Lord. I reverence him greatly, and I take that stuff serious. I can joke about everything, but when it comes down to the Father's business, I think if we're all just obedient to the instruction given, what we're supposed to do, this world would be such a better place. We don't have to fix nobody.
Exactly.
Just fix ourselves. Fix ourselves. I think we'd be great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I've been following you for the longest time, but I'm not going to follow you into that.
Well, you say that, but, I tell people ministry is not the pulpit. Right. And you are definitely in ministry. And you've been ministering for years. And when you're humble enough to be behind the scenes, God will put you out in public.
Right.
You heard the story of Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Never wanted to preach. He was glad just fixing his daddy's shirt and tie and running the light and sound.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Never preached.
No, I watched what my parents went through as pastors, and I'm like, because it used to bother me, man, because they would get these folks that was just downtrodden, man, and moms would work with them and, feed them and, feed them the word and get them clothing and food and shelter, and cars and, jobs. And they get their program together and they get to the point where they're strong and they're doing well, and they leave and go to another church. And I'm like, oh, man, that used to bother me to no end. But my mom's was like, long as they get their heart right with God, that's all that matters to me. And I'm like, yeah, but no.
Well, speaking from someone who felt the same way you felt, because it was happening to me, I finally had to let that scripture marinate in me that says, some plant, some water, but God gives the increase.
Right.
So we were just planting and watering.
Right.
But that's still part of the process. Because listen, I say the church, nothing has a revolving door more than the church.
Oh, no doubt.
Christians are recycled. You recycle bottles. No, we recycle Christians. They go somewhere where they're happy for that time, and then when they don't hear what they want to hear, or they don't see what they want to see, then it's time for them to go to a new spot. So, I understand that.
Wow. All right, listen, I got some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
What are your hobbies?
Hobbies. Pool. I'm a big pool player. I love shooting pool. Been on leagues for the past 6 or 7 years out here competitively. So love pool, love sports.
Hmm.
Yeah, pool and sports is about it.
All right. What is the greatest accomplishment of your life?
Hmm. To this point, I would say marriage and parenthood.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
We just made 50 years, so for
Yeah.
me, that's a landmark.
Man, please, that's huge.
Yeah, that's a
Huge.
landmark.
Yeah, that's a blessing, man. What's on your bucket list?
A few things left. I love traveling. Um, Alaska's on the bucket list left to go. Um, I still do want to go over and put my feet in the Jordan River,
Mm.
and I do want to go over there when the Lord opens that door.
Right.
But I love family, and that's if there's anything I can do before I transition out of here, it is to reunite family
Mm.
because growing up, family was everything to me, and we had great family outings,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and we grew up in that,
Yeah.
and I miss that, and I think our
We.
families are so busy chasing the American dream,
Yeah.
we forget that we are the American dream.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that used to get us together no longer are here.
Correct.
And so, yeah, unfortunate. Um, what would you most like to learn?
Hmm. And it's not a cliche, but it's to be more like Jesus,
Mm.
in my acceptance of people, in my acceptance of myself, just be more, um, instead of tolerating, celebrating,
Right.
you
Right.
know? Yeah.
What's the coolest place you ever traveled to?
Wow. That's deep. Normally most people would say, like Hawaii, and that was really good, but um, I had always had a dream to go to Key West.
Mm.
And so Donald and I got to go down to Key West. I saw in a movie a long time ago, the big pillar in Key West that says, um, the farthest point south in the continental United States and
Oh.
90 miles from Cuba.
Right. Right.
And so Donald and I got to take a picture there.
Mm.
And that was one of the biggest things because to get to Key West, unless you fly or go in a cruise ship, you have to drive those miles over that water.
Oh,
And
right.
that is not normal. And I'm not afraid of water, but that's
Right.
not being over water that long and that close to the water.
All right. How far? How long is that bridge? You know?
It was 3.5 hours to only go like 60 something, like almost like 60, 70 miles.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Mm. You have to have a want to go to Key West, unless you're going on the boat or the plane. If you're flying in, then that's great. But other than that, I
Right.
got to drive in. I always wanted to drive over all those connecting bridges. I don't even know what they are. And people live out there. That's the other thing.
Right.
Ain't no way back to the mainland, but
Mm.
swim. You
Yeah.
hear
Right.
me?
Right.
If that's shut down, ain't no way back. So
Mm.
they're
Mm.
brave to be out there.
Yeah.
So
I know
yeah,
that's
Key
right.
West.
Yeah. No. No, I couldn't live over there.
Yeah.
What makes you unique?
I,
And you are unique. You
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 should
have
be
to know
asking
that.
my wife that question. She got a whole. She could give you a speech on what makes me so unique.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah. She reminds me people don't think like I think.
Oh
So
no, definitely not.
I should stop expecting them to. So yeah, but I
Yeah,
don't think
that's a
she's
character
meaning that
flaw.
in a build up way. I think that's her hook. She's
Hmm.
hooking me. But hmm, That's a good one. Can you give me that question one more time?
Yeah, it's what makes you unique. And I say that you are unique, man. I mean,
Mm.
you are one of a kind. You are unlike anybody I ever met in my whole life. I'm
But you know, that's
serious,
not
man.
necessarily a good thing
No,
because
it's a
you've met a
good
lot
thing.
of people.
It's a
So,
good thing. No, it's a good thing. And I said to you just recently, I said that that there were people that were jealous of you because they wanted to be like you because they
mm,
weren't able to they couldn't communicate like you do.
mm,
You have the gift of the gab. You are serious when need be. You are heady when need be.
mm,
You are you are a unique individual.
mm. And I think the desire to make friends, if that can make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up the only child in Stanford and stuff, back when we were growing up, winters were winters.
Yeah, yeah,
You were snowed in. You couldn't open your front door to get out
right.
your house. The snow. I'm talking about. We grew up in snow. You
Yeah.
got a sled every winter. Ice skates. We skated on the ponds and
Mm.
lakes. So we were. That's what we did. But it was also kind of lonely.
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
was the only child. I ain't had nobody in the house with me. My grandparents were grandparents. They were older.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of company. So rainy days, snowy days, winters, I was always alone. So it made me work on my people skills.
Okay.
And so if there's anything that makes me unique, I believe it's my people skills.
Mm.
From going to Berkshire and being exposed in all these different arenas
Mm-hmm.
has made me, you know, in the poem, if you can sit with a king and not lose the touch,
Mm.
yeah, that kind of thing.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Who is your hero?
Hmm. Growing up in the natural, my hero was Martin Luther King. In the spiritual, it was Jesus.
Mm.
I always thought Jesus was the greatest man I ever heard about in Sunday school. I just was like, there really is somebody that's doing things like this? I mean,
Mm.
I just thought he was the joint. And
Right. Right.
always loved him doing good things. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I get up there, I got a lot of questions to ask him.
Mm.
Because people teach you stuff, coming up. It's like, I know that ain't right.
Mm.
But like for instance, the first miracle that Jesus did was what changing water to wine.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, all right, so we ain't supposed to drink wine, but Jesus turned water to wine. Said, well, back then the water wasn't very good, and so they had to drink wine. It's like, and as a kid, I was like, okay, not knowing any better. It's like, why would you teach somebody something like that?
Well, religion was about rules and regulation. Salvation was about relationship.
Right.
And so they figured it was easier to keep us in line if we had to fall into their rules and regulations rather than
Mm.
what it actually said. And you studied the word. And
Mm-hmm.
no, it says, be not drunk. But it
Right.
was a celebration, and it was custom at a celebration to save the best wine for last. Whether they say it was fermented or it wasn't fermented,
Mm.
what difference does it make? It was a celebration, and
Right.
we're supposed to not be drunk.
Right.
So,
Right.
but anyway, technicality, right?
What is the most important decision you have ever made?
Wow. When I think back, I think the greatest life choice I made was when I chose to hitchhike from school, break the law, and marry my wife before my daughter was born.
Wow.
I believe that was an act of obedience
Mm.
that the Lord needed me to do for Him to be able to give me everything else that I've received. I
Right.
think that was the turning point in my life right there. Valinda has kept me. If it wasn't for Valinda, I wouldn't be alive.
Oh, I know. There's a
I
special place
wouldn't.
in heaven for her.
I wouldn't be alive. I wouldn't be alive. Yeah, she was the moral compass.
Right.
And she got me to stop carrying a pistol back in the day and stuff.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
because if I had kept carrying that, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right. Through
So
some
yeah,
glass.
yeah, that was, I think, the best decision ever.
Mm.
And that, in accepting Jesus, that
Right. Right.
yeah, naturally that was the best decision.
Right. What's your favorite song, and who's your favorite group or singer?
Wow, favorites. Well, I guess my favorite song is "I'll Be Around"
The
by
Spinners.
Spinners because that's my ringtone.
Okay.
So if people know when they hear that ringtone, they know that's my phone.
Mm.
And I've had that for years, and it's because of that song. Whenever you call me,
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. I'll be there.
whenever you call me,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's kind of like my ministry. I'm probably one of the only pastors that everybody in my church has my cell phone number.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
call. I'm
Yeah.
the pastor.
Right.
Call.
Right. Right.
So whenever you call, so that one. But our my song for us as a couple is "Heat Wave."
Always and forever.
Always and forever.
Wow.
Hmm.
And 50
But
years later.
one of my favorite songs to hear people sing is one that you sing that you probably don't sing anymore, but it was by Larry Graham.
What's that?
Larry Graham sang a song,
I'm trying.
a slow song,
One in a million.
"One in a Million."
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah. I
that
haven't
that
seen
was
that
right
in
in that
years.
was right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
That had your
Yeah. Yeah.
baritone voice all on that.
I haven't seen
Yeah,
that in years.
I know that was your thing.
Wow.
To me, that's one of the best renditions of it I ever heard when you sang that. I've never forgotten that, and I know
Wow.
that's been 40 years ago,
Yeah, at least.
if
Yeah.
not
Wow.
longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. You were talking about the Spinners. I got a chance to meet and hang out with Felipe Wynn.
Oh, really?
Yeah. After he left the Spinners, he was trying to do a solo thing, and then he went and was singing with Parliament Funkadelic,
Mm.
and that song "Knee Deep."
Oh, okay.
And when you get to the end, towards the end of it, and that scatting in, oh, something about the music,
Yeah, yeah.
groove. That's Felipe.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so anyway, Ronnie and I went to the Apollo to the show. This was '79, and this in 1979. That was George Clinton's retirement concert
Wow.
in '79, right?
Wow.
So we go and so the show, it was a great show, man. They're killing it, and then they start doing Knee Deep, and they must have played the song for about 25 minutes, but so they were like maybe 15 minutes into it, and we knew that Felipe had sung that part, but he wasn't out there, and we didn't see him. All of a sudden, he comes skipping out, and he's singing that with a tuxedo on, and he just killed it. But after the show was over, Ronnie and I got a chance to hang out with him and
Oh,
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, Felipe was good.
That's
people.
my boy.
Oh man, please. He got out of here way too early too. Man.
Yeah. Who hadn't?
Oh yeah, I know.
Mm.
This is the toughest question.
Oh.
Tell me your life story in one sentence.
My life story in one sentence. God had his hand on me, and he's not done with me yet.
All right. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
How can people contact you on social media?
Social media. Well, we do everything through rlfmoval.com. Actually, our site, we're having a new site built, but that's our website. Other than that, Renewed Life Fellowship Facebook. I'm under Teddy Collins on Instagram, Teddy Collins Sr. on Instagram, Teddy Collins on Sr. on Facebook. All of my stuff is public too. I'm not one that's worried about them stealing my identity. If
Right,
they want to take my identity, just as long as they take my debt, they can have my identity.
right.
You know, I ain't
No,
worried
that's
about
right.
my identity. So yeah, so I'm on social media. And yeah, those I go on them and check them, but I'm not pushing that envelope yet. But we are looking to have our show coming back on. We used to do a show about 3 years ago. One of the ministers on my staff and I called "Chopping It Up" with Ted and
Oh
Kev.
yeah, I remember watching that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so we're going to be bringing that back, and so we're going to be able to have you on our
cool.
platform
Cool. I look
and
forward to it.
have you in the hot seat.
Yeah.
And for all those listening, I didn't get a cheat sheet. I didn't get any questions. I didn't know where he was going, and so I've known him all my life, so I trust him. So I figured at the end of the day, he wasn't going to have me looking bad.
No,
So
not at all.
no, I'm just joking.
No, man,
so I was glad
you
to
are
come
my
on.
hero, so I
was
I
glad
can't
to
do
come
that.
on, but I had no idea what we were going to be talking about.
Wow.
I didn't know whether it was just going to be topics. So when you started off that it was going to be about me, I was not prepared. That's why I was laughing at the intro. I thought we were going to talk sports and politics. So
well, that's another day.
uh-huh.
That's definitely for another day. And maybe we'll bring Ron and Donald on for that.
Woo, that'll be a live show.
Go
Go viral. If you want to go viral, that's what we need to get on here.
Okay. Oh, I know. Oh man, because I thank you, man, for being on my first podcast.
Hallelujah.
I appreciate you more than you know.
Hallelujah.
Thank you.
I thank you too for having me. You're my younger cousin, but you're really my younger brother.
Yes.
And I'm just so glad, and I'm just hoping that this is the year that you will allow the world to hear and see all that's been deposited in you. To me, you're the best kept secret in Connecticut.
Wow.
And I mean that. I mean that. And it can't help you. Your steps have ordered you to this position where you no longer can be behind the scenes anymore. You're gonna have to come on out because we need what you have.
Right. Wow.
And I always share that with you. So
yeah.
I'm humbled that you thought of me, and I appreciate you. And to the black of your mind.
In the black of my mind.
In the black of your mind.
Yes, sir.
I'm so glad, man. What a catchy title. Sounds just like you.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, cuz.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, I love you, man.
Much love, sir. Deuces. I know. Much love. Peace.
This has been another episode of In the Black of My Mind podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Until next week, y'all be blessed.